shop today. It's a 2021 Ford Mustang 5.0, about to get a full Ford Roush SuperCharger kit installed, ranking out at 750 horsepower. So let's go out and do a quick test drive and see the acceleration on a stock 5.0. And then, as soon as we're done with this project, we'll show you how fast she really goes. Check back in with us in just a bit to see the progress on this SuperCharger install. Got the brakes off of this thing. Now we're gonna get ready to take off the strut tower brace with the SSBC V8 calipers and EBC 14-inch rotors. Come on, belly gas. 110 for the human brake. Lick the booty hole. Want to build a tank? We'll build you a tank. Lang lang. Not too bad. 100 miles an hour in third gear. It's got a little pep to it. Maybe when we get a supercharger in it, we'll be able to do 120 miles an hour in third gear, or maybe more. Hey you guys, thanks so much for tuning in for another episode of Custom Effin' Customs. And today we're bringing you some really awesome equipment from Ford Racing and Roush. They've got a twin vortices supercharger kit that is putting down 750 horsepower from the brand new 2021 Ford Mustangs. This customer really knows what he wants. He called us up and he said, man, I really want to put down some power and I think I want that brand new Roush kit on my Mustang. So we're here live in the shop today getting this thing installed. We just got done with all the programming, got the computer fully set up and ready to go, dialed in, and now we're ready to start bolting parts on. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is, of course, they've got their intake manifold. This intake manifold is awesome. It's built in with an air-to-water intercooler so you can keep all that air charged nice and cold. Then you've got the twin vortices supercharger right here that's going to put down 12 psi of pressure when you're hitting the gas. Fluid dampener, making sure that your engine's running nice and smooth, right from Roush Performance. They're setting us up with brand new high flow injectors and a high flow fuel rail system, brand new pulleys, all the electrical equipment that we need, a new throttle body, and everything that we need for the proper airflow and cooling to keep this supercharger running great on this 2021 Ford Mustang. So first thing, most important that I can tell you guys, if you're thinking about purchasing one of these kits for yourself and doing this job at your home, definitely take your time. Print out and read through every page in this instruction booklet before you get started. This is not what they would call an easy job. I rate this a 4 out of 5. Make sure you take your time, and you better have a buddy who has a pass-through programmer to do some programming like we did here in our shop. If not, you might have to go down and get this tuned at your local tuner. So make sure that you read this instruction manual and get ahead of the steps before you get into what you're doing so you don't get too far behind. That's all I can say for right now. We're going to get started building this motor and make this thing ripping for our customer. 24 hours, here we go, let's make a run. Well, I read all the information. I can get a J tool and I can do pass-through with a J235 or 2534 tool. I have to go in and download. It wouldn't be that hard. I was reading the instructions. I was considering calling Wayne.
Because it's no longer a pass-through, so far as I understand it. We purchased IDS software for one of our scan tools, and it mimics identically a Ford scan tool.
But I don't know. It said specifically on Roush's thing that you have to use a pass-through J2534 tool, download their tool from the internet, log in through their tool, and then use the pass-through in order to fucking program it. So I don't know if it's a Ford IDS thing. I don't think it's a Ford IDS thing. And so basically it's imperative before I even fucking take a bolt off this car that I have an answer to as soon as it's done.
Have you called any Ford dealers?
I haven't.
Okay, I'm just going to call the local one and see if they know anything about who can do it.
Yeah, I don't think that Auburn can personally.
Well, they should be able to tell us who can quicker than I can call it.
Right.
Dealer in the battle.
And so I think that it's going to be future Ford in Roseville or Sacramento. The reason why is because I looked up Roush vehicle and parts sales, and they were the only two who did installation, like installed on vehicles type shit. But as you can see, this is what I was researching. Because I got a little bit more nervous with that towards the end here, because I was like, fuck, I started looking at all the installation stuff. I watched a couple YouTube videos just to see, you know, initially how, you know, like CJ Pody Ports, they did a pretty good write-up on it. And the first thing he was like, it has to be fucking programmed. We're dealing with Ford.
This is Larry. How can I help you?
Hey, this is Colin with Custom Effin' Customs. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So the supercharger kit that we bought from you guys, it says it includes a calibration, you know, like a programming for the computer. But when we're getting into this, it did not include any kind of like plug-in programmer. Apparently we have to get this done through a Ford dealer. Is that something that you guys can do, is program the updated calibration? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
We probably have to check with service, and they're probably not going to know. Because to them, you're putting something aftermarket on the car. You know?
aftermarket. I bought it from Ford Performance.
Oh, I know. It's an accessory. It's not, it didn't come factory. It's something like they're going to have. When a customer wants to add a supercharger, this is what we do. How are they going to know that?
Sure.
It's the service writers,
Okay. Would you guys be able to check for me, or do I need to call service and ask them what they would do?
Do you know what it's called?
Yeah, I can give you a part number.
Oh, perfect.
I mean, I just bought it from you guys, so you might be able to pull it from the last invoice.
I know the part number, or I have to figure out the part number of what you bought.
I just already filed it, is all.
What you need.
Oh, well.
Oh yeah, well it's not a physical part, it's a program or...
Some kind of diagnostic tool.
No, it's not a physical part, it's an actual program, so it's a calibration, like a reflash on the PCM.
Oh, okay.
And so when you purchase this kit, basically it says that it includes the 50 state legal calibration. And so I'm assuming because of purchase history, that's how they go off of if, to get this thing calibrated. And then it says that it has to be done at a authorized Ford dealer that is a, Roush sales performance, or Ford performance parts sales. So that's why we reached out. Gotcha. And so that's...
I'm not a Roush dealer. I want to say... Oh, shit. In fact, I had to research one to buy an accessory for another customer. Hold on a sec.
Yep.
There we go. No, I don't want the Roush newsletter.
I don't even want to know what that sound is. But you're on your own, because we're not a Roush dealer. We sell accessories.
Fag. It's a good thing I can figure it out because I've done too many programs in my fucking life. I'm glad that I come from dealer life. Do you know what we had to do like every day? 20 times a day in between building motors. Flash your PCM! Oh, it's another fucking reflash! Oh, there's a fucking recall! Take the stupid plug out of the fucking fuel tank because fucking they're setting PO 420s because we're fucking Subaru life and we're retarded. Flash the PCM! Oh, I'm a GM! My injectors are retarded in my fucking LBZ! Flash the PCM! Oh shit, my penis is too small. Flash! Went black. Nope, I never went back. Get the old school laptop from 1920s from fucking programming DSM computers in the 90s. Lying. It's not that computer. That would be like the computer that we're using on fucking Hassel's car. Not yet. Let me figure it the fuck out and then we can deal with it.
This isn't the time.
No, I just fucking everybody's up my ass right now. The kids being fucking stupid, fucking Colin's fucking being like, I can't fucking fucking Eli's fucking up my, and I'm like, will you guys just do what you need to do and leave me the fuck alone for fucking 20 minutes so that I can figure some important shit out?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Because yeah, this is main priority number one.
Yeah, like 100%. Why are you asking? Horsepower limited break-in built into the Flash.
That makes sense.
It will only give you 500 horsepower for 1,500 miles. So check it out, you guys. We are getting cracking on this 2021 Ford Mustang that we have in here for a customer. We're putting on the Ford Racing Roush Performance Supercharger Stage 2, 750 horsepower at the rear wheels, super nasty from stock. And we just got done getting all the PCM written and flashed over, so it's got the new tune on there, all ready to go. So as you can see, we keep it clean as hell like a dentist around here. We got our baby protected in the full car cover, except for the engine bay area, but it's acting as a fender cover, and we're getting ready to pull off the front bumper right now. So I'm gonna go over that with you, how to remove the front fascia on this 2021 Ford Mustang, so we can start getting all the cooling components accessed for when we do this swap on this supercharger. So follow me while we start taking apart the lower section of the valance and removing the bumper. All right, so we just took out the 10 screws that hold in the lower valance section, and we're gonna go ahead and pop that off real quick and get that removed, and then we'll be able to start removing the side clips on the inner fender wells, so then the bumper can be removed from the upper side. All right, so we just took out the 20 locating bolts for the undercover. And I'm going to tell you right now, Ford is a champion, because if there's one thing that I see that customers hate, is their undercovers laying on the ground. And you ain't looking like a fool with your undercover on the ground today, because Ford's got you covered. 27mm screws that hold that thing on. It's probably not going to hit the ground anytime soon. And to hold those screws, we're going to go ahead and throw them in our brand new snap-on carbon fiber stitched mag tray. Super soft, no scratches, so you can set them on the side of the car and you don't have to worry about any damage to the paint. Really nice setup. They've got integrated magnets into the beds. This is a top product, and another reason why we use snap-on tools only in our shop. So we're going to go ahead and get this pulled out now. I just want to show you, all the locating screws are basically along the front side here. There's a few more that are right along this back rail. And then they even hit a couple more right here in these teardrops. Right there. So now they've got two last clips that are holding it on. We're going to go ahead and pop these two clips out on either side, and we'll be able to get this undercover pulled right out of there so we can get that front bumper off. Tell me what fuse number 48 is. Alright, so before we get started on this Mustang, a couple key things that you have to worry about to make sure that you don't hurt yourself in the progress. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up the fuse block, and you're going to want to pull out either fuse 48 or 49 depending on the year Mustang that you have, and that is going to take away all the power from the fuel pump. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go inside and start that car up, let it idle for about 15 or 20 seconds until the engine stalls, and that's going to remove all the high pressure fuel that's in the fuel rails. So when you're disconnecting the fuel system, you don't have to worry about any high pressure fuel getting sprayed in your face or all over your hands or anything like that. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up this little box right here, uncover our battery, disconnect both the negative and the positive sides of the battery, tuck those cables away, and then from there we're going to be pretty much safe to start working on this car. We don't have to worry about any electrical issues happening, and we don't have to worry about any high pressure fuel getting in our face. Let's get that fuse out of there. I'll leave it right inside so we don't lose it. And I'm going to go grab myself a 10mm and we'll get those battery cables disconnected. Just like that, we can tuck those cables out of the way and we don't have to worry about them shorting or touching the battery while we're doing the rest of this job. Next thing that we got to go ahead and remove are going to be these overhead strut power braces, so we can get in here and access the intake manifold. So a couple 15s and we'll have that ripped right off. So let's grab a 15 and get that pulled out.
4886662.
Overhead strut tower brace comes right off, like I said, with 4 15s right across each side. Now we can access the intake manifold, all of our vacuum lines, fuel lines, and coolant lines real easily with this out of the way. And before we go too much further, we're going to go ahead and hook up a hose to the 3/8 nipple on the bottom of the radiator and open up the petcock so then we can let this coolant system drain while we get prepped and ready to start taking apart the top end. So let's raise this car up and get the coolant out of the bottom of the radiator. Trigger there. Alright, so that's it for wrapping up, draining the coolant. If you guys didn't know, the petcock's right here on the passenger side, just behind the bumper. Little tiny white petcock screw right here. Open that up, stick yourself a piece of 3/8 hose onto the petcock and let it drain into a bucket, and you can be all set getting your coolant out of that car. So we're wrapping that up, now we're ready to tear down. So normally the next steps will be showing you guys how to take off the engine cover and remove the factory air intake, but this customer's already removed his engine cover and installed an aftermarket Roush Performance intake. So it's going to be a little bit different than what you might see on your stock car, but all in all, there's 4 plastic clips that hide these little tiny studs. You'll go ahead and pop those out with a flathead screwdriver, and you'll be able to access the studs with a little tiny impact gun to be able to pull your nuts off of there and then remove the engine cover. Once that engine cover is out of the way, it's as simple as removing a couple hoses off of the air intake tube and getting this air box out of your vehicle so then you can start working on the rest of the lines that are in here. Alright, that's the last bolt to pull out the air intake system for this Roush Performance intake. Now we've got easy access, like I said, to the most of the motor here. We can get to the rest of the coolant lines, spark plugs, the lower harmonic balancer, the upper overflow bottle, and now we'll be able to start installing some real components from Roush Performance Racing. Alright, so next up to get this process rolling, we got to get this throttle body out of the way, and we got to get a couple tubes out of here. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect the throttle body connector, get that out of there, and then we're going to come right over here and we're going to disconnect the purge solenoid valve and purge hose. And after we get this purge hose and purge solenoid valve disconnected, we're going to come in and we're going to remove these upper lines for the heater to access our fuel rails. Once we access the fuel rails, we're going to go ahead and disconnect both sides, the pressure and the return side of the fuel rail, and flop those lines out of the way so we can start accessing the upper part of the intake manifold. Off of there. So we went ahead and removed the air pipe that goes over to the booster. That gave us access to be able to remove the foam covers that cover the top of the fuel rails. There's just one more side over here, 2 more 10 millimeters and another plastic cover. You can pull that foam rail off of there, and that gives you access to all the fuel injector connectors and the fuel pressure sensor that we're going to be disconnecting next, so we can go ahead and take out these fuel rails. All right, so now that we got the fuel lines disconnected, we got all the injectors unplugged and the fuel pressure regulator unplugged, we're going to take out the 410s that hold this fuel rail in place, and then we've got 6 8mm bolts that are going to hold down this intake manifold, and we'll get both of these pulled up out of here. The only thing that you got to be worried about is when you're pulling this out, it's got to come straight up, get a little bit of clearance over this degas bottle, come forward, and there's 3 connectors in the back that we'll have to disconnect once the intake manifold's actually loose. They're just a little hard to access with it down in place. So we'll be careful when we pull this up not to stretch any wires or damage anything. Disconnect those last 3 connectors and this intake manifold's going to come right out. Alright, so now that I got those 6 intake manifold bolts loose, one thing that I want to do that's important also, especially if you've been driving the car for a while, and this is a supercharger that you might not be putting on a brand new car like this is you really want to make sure that you blow down everywhere in between the intake manifold and the heads, because a lot of surface debris ends up settling there, and you're going to end up getting a lot of dirt and sand down inside of your intake, or not your intake, but inside of the runners that are going to be going directly into your valves, and you don't want to get a whole bunch of sand and debris down inside of your engine. So make sure you blow that off and keep it clean before you lift this intake off of here. Once that's lifted off, then you're going to want to go ahead and put some tape over those intake runners so then you don't lose anything inside while you're doing the rest of the service. This car's only got 8,000 miles on it, and there was a ton of dirt that was coming out from that intake manifold. So if we would have lifted it off, all that debris would have fell right inside. So we're definitely glad that we gave it a little blow job. Alright, so like I said, the last 3 connectors that are in the back right here, these are the ones that are a little bit harder to access. So you just lift the intake manifold up, tilt it over to the side just a little bit, get access to all 3 of these clips, and then there's 2 little tiny Christmas trees that stick in the back of the intake too, holding the harness. So you're gonna get in there and you're gonna remove those 2 Christmas trees to be able to get that harness to release and the intake manifold to come off. So now that we got this exposed, we're gonna wipe this down with a rag, get some tape over the top of these intake runners so we don't have anything fall inside, and we'll keep working. So there's 4 bolts that hold in the radiator fans. Go ahead and remove your 4 bolts that hold in the radiator fans after getting your upper and lower radiator hose out of the way. And then once you do that, this thing just slips right up. Get your fans out of there. Then you'll be able to access your lower hose clamp for your lower radiator hose. And now you have access to the front of the motor, as we've got to drill, tap, and grind a few things in order to get the brackets set up for the front end of this car. So that's what's coming up next. We're going to be removing the belts and getting access so we can start doing some custom machining on the front timing cover. Well, I don't know where you've been, but we've been here working. And while we were working, and you were out watching, we removed the serpentine belts, which includes taking this 15mm bolt right here on this tensioner, swinging it counterclockwise to loosen the belt, and you can get the belt off of the main water pump pulley drive. Once that belt's off, remove the 3 10mm that hold the water pump pulley in place. And then the last thing that you're going to have to do is take a pair of cutters and cut the AC belt, because they're a stretch fit, and we're getting ready to pull the lower harmonic balancer off. Alright, so we just got done finishing the quick modifications to the fan shroud. They provide you on the last page of the instructions, and why I told you to read the instructions, to make sure that you can find the templates that you need in order to set the fan shroud up to mount the new degas bottle. So we've got that buttoned up already. Make sure that you find the template. We're going to go ahead and install this degas bottle and make sure everything fits up right. And just like that, if you do what the factory says, it'll fit like the factory wants.
Before you get started driving your life away, make sure you protect your life with the respirator and proper eye safety protection. Without these two pieces of tooling right here, you could end up in an emergency room.
Alright, so we're getting ready to grind down and modify the front of the timing cover here. And like I said, just jokingly, but in all seriousness, you are grinding aluminum. You are going to be breathing that in pretty bad if you're buried over this thing. And so rather than breathing in a whole bunch of aluminum flakes, put on a respirator. And if you're using something that's a pretty heavy abrasive, there's a high potential for something flying and getting yourself in the eye. I've been to the doctor many a times and had to have metal extracted from my eyes. Don't be like me. Put your safety protection on and don't get yourself hurt. So here we go. We'll get this thing ground down nice and smooth, so then we can show you what it needs to look like. Basically, we've got to take this whole little nipple off right here and take it down to just the height of that little ridge that's right here. And so once we grind this down smooth, it'll be right in line with that edge and it'll be flush. And then we got to drill and tap this hole so then we can mount the accessory brackets for the serpentine belt system for the supercharger. So that's what we're doing next. End of the timing cover flush with the edge of the next ridge that was in line. So now that that's done, I'm going to jump over to this hole right here, drill it out with a 6.9mm drill bit, and tap it with an M8 by 125. As soon as we get done with that, we'll be ready to move on and start getting some accessory brackets located on this, and then finally get that lower harmonic balancer swapped out with that beautiful fluid damper. See your green dot? Yeah. Alright, so we got most of the fabrication wrapped up on the front end of this timing cover. We got front nipple here, ground down and all the way flush. We've got ourselves drilled and tapped in the hole right here for the locating for the new tensioner. And next, we got to start hooking up the wiring harness for the intercooler water pump. So we're going to start lubing this out right now. It routes from the driver's side of the engine across the back, plugs into this blue connector right here, continues routing over to the passenger side, across the valve cover, attaches to this tab here with the relay box. A ground will attach where this ground is at, and then we're going to run a single wire over to the inside of the fuse and battery box and install a connector right here at terminal number 3. So we're going to go ahead and get that laced in, and we'll show you guys what it looks like when it's all the way installed.